Welcome to the Inspired Action Podcast. This is where we have motivational, inspiring conversations and interviews that we hope you'll enjoy listening to. If you're interested in creating more balance in your life, understanding your 5-element energetic nature, finding the path of greatest ease,
or releasing the baggage of this lifetime and discovering ancient alchemy that can help you fly in your life, join us and other inspired actioneers on this alchemical transformational journey.
Welcome to the Inspired Action Podcast. My name is Jay. This is Pod 63. I'm here with my co-host, Lita Herman.
Welcome back, Inspired Actioneers. We are excited about today's podcast because we just finished our series of podcasts explaining the 5 Daoist Virtues for finding your authentic self, which was Pods 57 to 62. And we realized that it would be really cool to figure out how to put all these great virtues into action. So we have some thoughts on working these into your everyday life.
Yes, today Lita asked me to come up with some of my coaching suggestions. I don't really always like to call it coaching, but strategy sessions. So we're going to see how that goes. I have no idea if this is going to be a short podcast or a long podcast, or I don't know. We're just going to see if we can come up with some useful tips and tricks and things to get you to move forward in your life to living more authentically in your life.
Well, I just have to say, Jay, with all the ideas we have, it's probably going to be a longer podcast than a shorter one.
I didn't want to say that, but...
Well, we suggest if you haven't listened to the past 5 podcasts, or I think 6 podcasts, go back and listen to those.
Yeah, well, wait, go ahead. We don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, so you've listened to all 5. You're on the same page, so here we go.
So finding and living your authenticity is key to this idea of happy on the way to happiness, which is really this season's theme for the podcast.
Yeah, many of us are planning our future happiness.
It's like we want to arrive at the happy place. What about the trip there?
Yeah, some people think it's really hard.
Yeah, we fight so hard. But
we're just having they're having no fun on the way to happiness. So I think you should be happy on the way to happiness, and it should be easy.
Yes, and in Taoism, we talk about it. We call it Wu Wei, which is really living an inspired life, which is opposite of hard work.
I like to think it's the happy moments in life that are in the present moments in life.
And this is the theme of our whole podcast, Inspired Action. So yes, not putting off your happiness to a future date.
Yeah, I hear it every day when I'm talking with someone. You know, I'll be happy when ... I'll be happier when ... It's always fill in the blank. We have tons of these happy statements, but
like when I can go on vacation,
or when I get married,
or when I win the lottery.
Oh yeah, I hear that one a lot. That's a favorite, and that's always like the people that are just starting to work with me. They'll be like, oh, I'm like, so your retirement plan to be happy is to win the lottery? Yes, they say.
Or I'll do that if I win the lottery.
That's right.
But I need to win the lottery first.
Yes, and everyone wants to be happy and find happiness now. So how do we get that?
The Taoist theory is that happiness comes when you live your true authenticity. And I'm really excited to get into this more. But before we go any further, let's take a minute to update everyone on the podcast.
Last week, we announced we have a brand new Patreon page, which is a place where you can donate to the podcast. And we have some really cool perks that we have thrown in. So if you donate even a little bit, you will get some cool swag and some virtual hugs from us. And that's www.patreon.com/inspired action. And I think, Lita, I just looked, we have our first donor there. So thank you very much. Woo! Got to start with one, and there it is.
Well, we're really excited about the future of this podcast. We've been just spending a lot of time thinking about where it's headed.
And it's really taken off.
Yeah. And we even have online classes we're planning, and we're creating all sorts of wonderful things for you.
Yeah, and we also have a really cool journaling system that we might introduce in a couple podcasts if we get a lot of questions about that, because we mentioned it from time to time, and we're going to mention it today, I think. So we'll have some of that in the future.
We just have a lot of new themes and projects and cool things. So.
And all of this takes the support of you, the listeners, which we totally appreciate and support. So if you're interested, you could just keep listening and do nothing because we're totally cool with that. But if you want to donate to our Patreon page, again, www.patreon.com/inspired action. You can donate to support this little podcast and all the future things we have planned. It's just a little way to keep things going in motion, and we totally appreciate it.
And, again, the podcast is always free. We love having this information out in the world, and we just get such great feedback from you all. And I just want to remind you, if you want to give us feedback, we have a Facebook page, we have an Instagram page, Inspired Action. Look us up there. Also, we have an app, Inspired Action app, where you can listen to meditations. So we're going to be talking a lot about that in the next upcoming podcast.
And we have 2 of the virtue meditations on there. We have a lot of other meditations, but we're going to finish up that series soon. There's more to come. And I just wanted to say, Lita, before we dive into this, iTunes, if you can take a moment to rate, review, we just want you to be part of it. We don't really care what you do. If you take 2 seconds and hit the 5 stars, but only if you like the podcast. We just want you to know that you have that option to do that for us.
Okay, so Jay, let's refresh everyone on the 5 Daoist virtues.
Wait. We forgot, thinking of 5, we forgot the 5 Element Fridays.
Oh, yes, right.
So tune in on Fridays. We have a little mini podcast of the 5 Element Fridays. It just gives you something to think about for the weekend, and everyone seems to really like it.
Yeah. All right.
So now.
Okay, so Jay, let's refresh everyone on the 5 Daoist virtues, which we believe are key to your individual happiness.
Yes, I think those virtues, I will repeat for everyone: courage, authority, gratitude, forgiveness, and acceptance.
So while these are associated with various elements, courage with wood, authority with fire, gratitude, it goes with earth, forgiveness goes with metal, and acceptance goes with water.
I could have said that. I didn't know you wanted me to say that.
We look at these as like a path to your authenticity. So it's not so important that they're associated with each of those elements. It's the order that they come in, and that courage is first.
It's like a first step. You really can't even begin to find your authenticity if you can't find the courage to do what you need to do for yourself.
Or what you believe in.
Some of us have this virtue innately, and courage, I'm speaking of the courage. It's just in there, and it rises up when you need it.
So Brene talks about her courage in an earth elemental energetic way.
Which I think is a little different than the wood elemental way.
Exactly, yes. So the earth way to do courage is to speak your truth. The courage to say the difficult things when something's off. For example, earth people hate when people cross boundaries, and they have to find the courage to speak up and say what they feel. Whereas for you, Jay, the wood version of the courage virtue, it's more about doing than speaking up, though both can be true for wood. But in terms of wood, it's about fighting for justice, doing the hard things to help someone in need, for example. It's a bit more active and not just about the speaking part.
Yeah, and I think, of course, some people have both earth and wood, and they're kind of like the feisty ones out there.
Yes.
They'll speak out and do the stuff that fights the fight, for the good fight, I should say.
Yes, so that's the courage virtue in action, more as a generic virtue.
But I think for today, we're talking more about an individual's need to have the courage to be yourself, irrespective of everyone around you.
Yes, and this is yet another version of this word, courage.
And Lita, I think this applies to all 5 virtues, and we're really suggesting that each of us who's listening, us included, we always are doing the work, to try to evaluate where we get stuck along the path of authenticity. And so the first step is to honestly ask yourself, do you have the courage to take the steps necessary for yourself above all those around you, perhaps even in conflict with those around you? If you don't, that's fine. No judgment. It's okay. Be honest about that. Accept where you are. That's good enough for right now. That is good where you are. But this is where the process needs to begin.
And it's a starting place. If you don't have that courage, it's fine, as Jay said, as long as you're honest about it. Because as long as you're honest, that's where you can begin.
And you can begin at any time. It's really about asking yourself, what baby steps can you take that will start you off on the process of having that courage to put yourself first?
We often say that parents may have difficulty with this virtue. Doing alchemy in general is much harder when you're raising a family because those little ones always come first. So being a parent, by its very definition, is agreeing to put yourself second for at least 18 years,
yeah,
right?
At least, right?
These days, getting those children to leave the nest sometimes is hard. So it may even be longer than 18 years. It's a tough road. And of course, there's always ways you can still be your authentic self and be a parent, but to be totally selfish, that's probably not possible when your child is suddenly sick or just needs you in another way.
Yeah, there are strategies that you can discover and implement and really make it work. But I agree with that, Lita. It is a tough time, challenging time when you're raising children. So, but there's no getting around it. Children take a lot of energy.
Yes. And putting parenting aside, can you, no matter where you are in your life, put aside the needs of all the others around you and have the courage to be yourself and do what you need to do?
That is a really good point, Lita. And like we say over and over and over, if this is your starting place, that's great. Let's take some baby steps or goals. Sometimes I like to say micro goals. And let's just, for an example, the first thing that popped in my mind right now is if you're in a job that you don't like, you hate your job. And when you first took that job, Lita, you're like, oh, I'm just going to take it now. I just need to pay the rent. I need to buy groceries. But when I get all set, I'm going to go on to something bigger, something better, something more fun, more creative, more challenging. And then everything's going to be great. But then guess what? Life got in the way. You maybe overstayed your job. You overstayed your welcome, I'll even say, for whatever reason. So no blame, no shame. And now you've been in this job for just, I don't know, too long. And you're starting to feel a little bit depressed.
That's a really good point, because I even think sometimes depression can come from these scenarios. Like if a person isn't always depressed, but they're suddenly depressed, it could be because of one of these scenarios, that this incredible boredom and maybe you've been eating a lot and, not moving your body. Maybe you gained a little weight and you're bored deep down in your soul because you're not doing what you want to be doing. So maybe you're watching TV or binging Netflix or whatever. So you're not really growing or moving or exploring life. There's no self-cultivation, no self-expression.
It's the hamster on the wheel.
Yes.
It goes round and round and round.
Yes. It sounds pretty bleak, actually.
Yes. I just wanted to cover a possible scenario that a ton of people might have, or heck, I've been there. I think we've all been there at some point if you lived around this planet long enough, where, I did that for a whole year.
And what was it like for you?
Torture. It was hell in a hamster wheel, okay?
Okay.
I just knew there was more to life than this. There just had to be. I had more questions. I needed to go deeper, which is why I got so intrigued and got so into the concepts of alchemy, which is really based on this idea that there's more to life than this boring job. Netflix, pizza, Ben & Jerry's all weekend. There has to be more.
Yeah, so let's say that's your life. This is the reality. This is wherever someone is. And
what?
Then what? Yeah. What do they do?
Oh, you're
Jay?
asking me.
Yes.
Okay. If we're going to jump right into this coaching strategy session with this first thing, this is what I like to do. It's so simple, Lita. It blows my mind. But this is the question that you really need to ask yourself.
What is the question, Jay?
Okay, it's just one question. Do you want more? Do you want to change, and do you want to transform?
Yeah.
Do you need more in your life? Okay, that was 3, but they're linked. So 3 for 1.
Okay.
Okay, so do you want more? Do you want to change? Do you want to transform? Do you need more in your life?
Yes.
Those are the questions you need to ask yourself.
Yes.
So do you want more in your life, in your world? Change can only come if you want change. Otherwise, you'll stay out of alignment in your own life. Many people try to solve this big challenge first. Again, we go back to that job. Let's say they hate their job. What do you think they do first, Lita?
What? Look for a new job?
No. Well, yes, that's it. But that, to me, that's the but wait, it's not always that. It's what needs to change. If you have an amazing life, a wonderful partner, supportive friends, you're moving your body as best you can, you're self-cultivating, you're moving your tree, you're taking the time and the energy to be the best version of you, I will almost 100% guarantee that you will not be stuck in a crappy job. But, and I'm going to give you another but keep listening, because if you're like, I'm doing all that, but I still hate my job, just keep listening. I'm going to get to that a little bit in a few minutes. But being in alignment with yourself, being authentic and self-cultivating, that is the change that almost always needs to be done first. Then that takes courage, which is what we're going to talk about right now. Courage to really look at your life and know in your heart that you need to change, that you're not being who you're supposed to be authentically. You're not doing what you want to do. And that is what needs to happen. That is the baby steps, what I also like to call micro goals. And the new job will come. It'll change. You will change, and you'll be the rock star along the way. But that is the first hurdle.
That's a big butt. That's right.
But it is a big butt. It's a different kind of butt, okay?
Yes.
It's a butt. You hear it. I would get a new job, but I want to lose weight, but I want to make more money, but.
Right.
Okay?
Okay, great. I love this stuff, but let's keep it moving here. If you do feel like you've already got the courage to do what you want, need to do, then the next big question is, do you have the authority? which really means, are you able to make the decisions you need to make? Do you trust yourself? Do you have the power to do it? It's one thing to say you have the courage, but to actually follow through, now that's big.
Yes, and we talked about authenticity as being in charge of your life. Are you in charge? Are you making the decisions? This is a great question to ask yourself. And if you can't honestly answer yes to that question when you ask yourself that 3-in-1 question, then this is the phase you're at right now. This is where you need to work right now. This is where you can really focus some of your energy right now. To have the courage to make the changes requires you to be authentic in your life. So how can you do that? How can you think? How can you make changes, choices, decisions if you don't know who the heck you truly are?
So what would be an example of this, and how can someone take micro baby steps in this area?
I like that. Micro baby steps.
Micro baby steps.
Yes. Okay. So we'll go with the micro baby step. I like that. Okay. They're kind of like microgreens. They're little, but they pack a ton of punch in them there.
They're my favorite salad.
Okay. So micro baby steps for authentic actions. How's that?
Yes.
I think self-love and self-acceptance need to be present. You still need to self-cultivate. That's always going to be the baseline. And some heart-opening meditations like
the ones we have on the podcast, like Free Your Heart.
There you go.
Yeah.
Those meditations will help you start on the journey of self-love.
Yes.
And, I think the journal, we're going to mention the journal a lot today as we go through these 5. You can journal about all the things you truly like about yourself. And this is where people get tripped up. Don't focus on the ones you hate, or the ones that are challenging you or limiting you. They will not serve you here for this exercise. The real you is perfect. So focus on the perfect you, just the way you are.
I was thinking that this authenticity question is also about really giving yourself the power, empowering yourself.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah.
This is a great stage to start to feel that inside yourself.
Yeah, so if you've lived a life where you haven't been empowered, all of these self-love, all of this self-work is going to empower you greatly.
Yeah, I think that this is a great place to start. So think about, and I think the journal is an easy way to just start. So journal the things that you like about yourself.
Yes, that's
Okay,
a good microgreen
So go with the microgreen step. Look at them and really say, I'm a good thinker. I like to figure things out. I like to listen to people. You will come up with your own, but start with that list.
Essentially, you're giving yourself the power.
Absolutely.
No one else has to give it to you.
And I guarantee you're good at something.
Yeah. Okay, so the next step in the virtues is gratitude.
Gratitude. It seems like such a simple concept to me, but I'm always amazed how difficult this is for some people. But Lita, think about it. Some people have struggled in their whole lives. Okay, they just struggle, fight, challenge. They forget when they get where they actually want to go, they don't stop and appreciate what they've got.
Oh,
They're already on to the next thing.
Yes, I have that happen all the time when people come in sick and then they heal and they come back in and they
forget.
They totally forgot they were sick.
Yeah. Or where they are right now that they're healthy and then now they're not healthy again. Yes,
They forget to appreciate all that they've gotten so far.
That's right. So sometimes when we're working on these micro baby goals, I kind of like that. So we're going to continue with that. It becomes clear how gratitude can be celebrated and observed. Sometimes it's just an attitude of gratitude adjustment that is needed. And we've talked about that in a previous podcast as well.
Yes. So if you have work to do here, then what are the micro baby steps you need to do?
Well, I think a good place to start is self-cultivation, which is, something I'm going to always recommend. It's a must for this work, as well as I think self-love. This is a great place to insert self-love. You must learn to love yourself. So for gratitude, I love to have people pull out their journals again.
And we have those inspired action journals, which are coming.
Of course, we created our journal system to really work on all of these virtues and more as part of stage 1 in alchemy. So for gratitude, it is what we call our daily grateful fours. Every day you think about 4 things you're grateful for and why.
Yes. And
there's no ands here. It's that simple, really. You'll start to see the good life coming your way. People, places, animals, the weather, your home. It can change everything. Every day you can change it. It just changes. It's an attitude of gratitude adjustment. It forces you to look at what you are surrounding yourself with.
I find it really helps me a lot to do the grateful fours every day. It just puts me in a right state of mind.
I agree 100%. And we also have some random appearances in the journals of 4 things for that day that make you happy, which is different than gratitude. It's more fun.
Yeah, I love the happy ones because they really get me in a good mood. I love doing it. And maybe when we do our series on self-cultivation, which we're starting in the next podcast, we can do a whole pod on journaling.
Yes, I think it's a great way to start self-cultivation. I'm always trying to challenge people to take our 100-day challenges, which helps when we're talking about all the things we're talking about here. And actually, most of the things we talk about on this podcast.
Yes. And, the 100-day challenges are our take on the Daoist concepts to make changes in your life because it takes 100 days. Our whole journaling system is built on this 100-day concept. And it works.
Did you just say it twerks?
No, it works, not twerks.
Just checking. I thought someone could, maybe you wanted them to twerk while they're journaling. That might be hard, and we're not suggesting that you try that. You do not need to twerk to make it work.
Our journaling system works. WORKS.
I got it. And yes, it works very well if you want it to work.
Okay, let's move on and let's go to forgiveness next. The next step in the Daoist virtues that we all have been talking about for weeks. Not only do you have to appreciate what's good in your life to become authentic, you have to forgive all the jerks, not twerks, jerks in your life who
Again
gave
with
you
the twerks.
We were talking about big butts, weren't we?
Hey. Different kind of big butt.
Okay, all right. Forgive all the jerks in your life who gave you trouble.
Yes, and it's a yes with a capital Y. It's yes, Lita. I totally think that is the direction I like to stir people in when they go down this. Because if you don't learn to be authentic and you don't learn to forgive all the jerks and the twerks, okay,
yes.
You'll be harboring resentments, which will eat away at you and will totally interfere with your authenticity. You basically can't be yourself if you can't forgive. I cannot get any more clear than that. This could be the best one to look at after you answer your big butt question. Again, with a big butt, I'm sorry. But this is really, it's big. Forgiveness is essential for any forward growth. I do like that old saying, Lita, forgive and forget. At some point, you need to accept that you have a life. It is your life. You're living it. You're driving the car. You need to change out those flat tires of resentment with new tires to change your destiny and roll on. Start down the highway that you want to go. You get to decide where you're going.
You get to create a new direction, which is loving, kind, accepting of who you are. And where do you want to go with your own life?
Yeah, you are driving your own vehicle.
So what are the good micro baby steps for this, Jay?
Well, I think what comes to mind right here is triggers and tentacles. Oh my.
Oh my,
okay,
yes.
So we have to go back to one of the podcasts that we talked about. We talked about it a lot. I really feel like resentment is from someone else's crap that was put on you, which could be considered a tentacle, I think, Lita. You need to remove those tentacles, resentment, fear, anger. There could be many of them holding you back, holding you in a place that you don't want to be anymore. And this can be challenging. This could be really one of the challenging ones for you. But when you do the self-examination and you clear out that old crap, guess what?
What?
That was a long pause there. Guess what?
What?
Your path will appear and it'll be illuminated like an airport runway. There'll be like lights everywhere. It'll be clearer and clearer and clearer who you are truly. Not who you are because of the past events that were done to you. This is, this one takes a little time for some, but stick with it. It's tentacles. It's triggers and tentacles. And these are deep things. And I often suggest, Lita, that if people have a support team of friends, family, even a support group, therapist, whatever you need to be there, if you uncover some things that are not so happy or pleasant and you need to really take time to process.
And I'd like to suggest that you go back and listen to Pod 54, where we talked about tentacles and how to remove them. And we do have in our meditation app some meditations that help with tentacles as well.
Yeah, it's really important. This is if you want to get into this part right here, that's the work.
It's like you're digging for these old hurts and removing them
that are not serving you right now. So keep digging and digging and know that if you need help, you have a support staff that will help you. Have these people in place And, sometimes just knowing that they're there is enough. You're going to go through this journey alone, but don't be afraid to talk about this virtue and just let it go.
Let it go.
Yeah, let it go. That's the Frozen song, right? It could be our theme song for so much of the stuff we're working on.
Yes, so much. And it does play into the next virtue.
Boy, we are just whipping through these today.
Yeah, the final step is acceptance.
So if you have to go back and listen to this, because I'm kind of slightly over-caffeinated, we're just whipping through these. Okay, so acceptance. Okay, so that's an easy one to say, but think about it. If you can't forgive, then you certainly cannot accept. Yes. So you'll be wishing you could undo something old.
Yes.
How can you accept the way things are right now if you're still mad at some old crap?
Yes. And that said, some people do try to just accept and move on. And I think that's super challenging.
Yeah, I'm not saying it can't be done either, Lita, but I think, it could leave some buried landmines that are just waiting to be triggered. And guess what they're going to activate? Your tentacles. How's that for a visual there?
Yes.
Landmines and triggers and tentacles.
Oh my.
Hey, we should have thought of that one, right?
It's not pretty though.
It's not pretty. Exactly. That was my point. It's not pretty. Acceptance is just as important as all the other virtues we talk about. It is not a shortcut one. It is not the fast track unless you do some of the other work, like, not to sound like a broken record, self-cultivation, self-love, self-awareness, self-forgiveness. Then you're totally on the path for, guess what? Self-acceptance. Yes. Remember, it is self-acceptance. That means it's about you, not about anyone else but you. And that is the true challenge here. That is what I'm trying to kind of hammer in right here. Can you accept who you truly are? Even if it's today, can you accept it? Right now, not what you're wanting to do in the future, not what you want to have done in the past, not what you're feeling, thinking of I hear so many people, they tell me these stories and I'm like, is that where you are today? I'm like, no, that's where I want to be. So it's today. You have to start right here today.
But.
Yeah, see, another big but we have to continue. So here's an example. If you're scratching your head on this one for the, this virtue right here, go back and listen to the beginning of this podcast on Super Slow, which is now a super long podcast, and ask yourself right here the 3-for-1 questions. And depending on your answer, that is where you are. And you either accept it or do not. You take action.
Do or do not. There is no try.
Whoa, that was fantastic, Jay.
I know I'm going a little bit fast here, but this is like a condensed version of our longer talks and bigger concepts. And I just hope it clarified just a little bit and helped people get to some inspired actions.
Okay, so these are the 5 virtues. Again, so courage, authority, gratitude, forgiveness, and acceptance. And we really look at them as stages. So each stage is more challenging and more advanced than the next. So if you thought courage was challenging, wait until you get to acceptance.
But they're like fun challenges. They're like inspiring challenges. I'll do a quick recap again. We are all, and I mean that, we are all, Leader and I are included in that, need to continue to take an honest look at where we are in our lives. How can you move forward? How am I going to change that? How can we move forward along our path of seeking our own authenticity and self-acceptance and self-awareness, and my favorite, self-love, if we stop? It's the constant motion.
Yes, we want you to have a real life view of this. This is not just airy-fairy stuff, big philosophical theories. We've put these theories to the test.
Yeah, we're not just trying to motivate you. We're trying to inspire you to look at your own life. We don't just kick tires and drive them around the block. We've been living and breathing this for a long time. And it's not always easy. It's challenging sometimes, but it's so rewarding when it flows and you're in the Wu Wei and it's just love and kindness and ease and peace. It's not the only way to live, but it's how we like to live.
So that's why we've got some great 5 virtue meditations for you. We have 2 up already, courage and authority, and we have 3 that are coming soon your way. Check them out on the app.
I do think that the meditations and the self-cultivation, so that's part of the growth. To have a conversation with yourself through these meditations is a great place to not only start, but to continue the growth. And, I want to take a quick second here to segue into our next podcast, which I'm super excited now after we just had this one, which is a deeper dive into self-cultivation and self-awareness. And that's really what we're talking about today. Self-cultivation, self-awareness. Do you have the desire to want more? Do you have the willingness to look at yourself with no shame, no blame, with total honesty? It is that simple. You start asking yourself a question and just ignore the big buts.
And have the courage. List out all the 5 virtues and figure out what actual changes you want to make.
Those micro baby steps.
Yes.
Okay, so that's a wrap for today. Get inspired in your own life, because you know what? If you don't get inspired in your own life, who will?
Who will? Bye.
Bye.
Happy trails to you until we meet again.
You've been listening to the Inspired Action Podcast, and you've reached the end. Woohoo! Why not celebrate a little bit and click that subscribe button right there? We love having you with us on this journey, and we want it to continue.
You can also rate and review this podcast. And if you have already, thank you so much. We read all reviews, and your reviews help other people find this podcast as well. You can also be a part of this podcast yourself by submitting a voice recording message and emailing it to us at lita@inspiredactionpodcast.com or jay@inspiredactionpodcast.com.
And if you want, you can join our Facebook group or follow us on Instagram.
Join us next week for another Inspired Action conversation. And thank you for listening.
Thanks for listening, and remember to hug the dog.